Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditam Astuma Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both. May we work together with great energy and vigor. May our studies be illumined. May we not unnecessarily cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace beyond all. So this is Vedanta Series question answer. If you have no questions, you have no answers. So I'll mute the microphone and wait some questions.
Swami, I actually want to ask something. I was looking, I've couldn't hear the image of Lord Ganesh, and there's an element in the image that I don't really know what it is, but it really kind of like takes my attention. So what I'm going to do, because I don't know how to describe it, is I'm going to try to change the camera and I can show you with it. Is this in here? Is at his feet. It's like it's got a bindu, talking about bindus. But I was wondering, is that a flower with a bindu?
Ah, yes. So that is a coconut. And yes, with leaves around, and it's on a kailash, which is a pot, and it is used as worship, and I can speak about that and what the significance is of it. Okay?
Oh, that would be great. Thank you, Swami.
So we start off from the Vedantic position. Vedantic position, at its highest conclusion, says that there is only one being. There is only one supreme principle. And that is a difficult thing to grasp. You cannot imagine such a thing as oneness, because to do that, you have to take away space, and also you have to take away any form of movement. So there's a framework in which we operate where we see this one as being fractionated everywhere. So how to represent that, and how, more importantly, how to express our feeling toward it, so that we rally our emotions in such a way that our mind becomes elevated and clear and clean, purified. So naturally, every religion has some form of ritualistic worship. Even Islam has a form of ritualistic worship. They call it salah. When you go to the mosque, you ritualistically wash or bathe the feet and the ankles and the arms and the hands. There's a certain system of ritualistic bathing. And so from the very start, there's a purification going on. In Hindu temples also, there's a tank where you bathe first, put fresh clothes on, enter into the mandir. In Roman Catholic churches, they short circuit that a little bit. They have a small font, a small place outside or just inside the church, which contains what they call holy water. You put your fingers in, and you then trace the sign of the cross before you enter. All of this has the same basic meaning. And so it is necessary to conduct our life in such a way that it becomes a purificatory system. And so when we look at life as such, we cannot divorce it from that supreme entity. When you add time and space and mind, which is a fragmenter, then you realize not only is this divine principle, first of all, we have this idea that maybe this divine principle is outside ourselves. Some distance is there. But then as we get closer to that, like a distant relative, you know of a distant relative, as you get more familiar, you see this relative can be contacted, maybe through email, maybe through telephone or something like that. And you realize, oh, it is closer than I thought. And then you start understanding the immanent aspect of a transcendent aspect, the immanent aspect inside everything. So seeing that being in all things and all things in that being is a fundamental starting point and requires practice and rehearsals time and time again, infinitely, until we really grasp it, until we actually feel it. It's not just an intellectual understanding. We actually feel the living presence without which the eyes don't move or shine, without which speech does not occur and the heart doesn't pump and digestion doesn't happen and the cells don't get renewed. We have to understand that not just in humans, but in all living creatures. And we see that this whole totality that we call nature is really comprised of 5 divine elements. And these 5 divine elements are unfortunately and helplessly called earth and water and fire and air and ether or space. These are not very helpful to us because it's not literally that. So when we want to understand the divinity of this and infuse this with divinity for worship purposes, we can take a pot and we can put some clay in it, some earth there. And then we can put leaves there. And then we can put a coconut there, which is essentially representing life and a form for us. And then we can say, okay, if I infuse this with divinity, since it represents it, then what will I do if God himself is standing there on a royal throne called a pot? Then I'll put a bindu on the forehead, a spot, a point. In other words, some sacred anointing goes on in a sacred area which represents the intellect or represents divine consciousness or cosmic mind. And so the pot will have water in it. Now we have the element water. We also have the element earth. And we also have the element fire because to make the pot, fire was required. And then we have life in abundance. Mango leaves typically are put in the pot. And then the coconut itself, which is food. The whole of the universe is food and eater. The Upanishads tell us this. Everything is being eaten, being consumed by something. So we can divide the whole universe into a series of dramas whereby there is continuous sacrifice. What is sacrifice? Something is consumed and transformed into something else. So everything in that sense is rai, that means food. And that means matter. All matter is consumed, but redeveloped into something else. Energy and matter, they are neither created nor are they destroyed. They are constantly there. This is a fundamental conservation principle within our own physics. So when you see this, you're immediately enacting some worship. And when you assemble this kalash or this pot, you really are doing it, if you do it properly, in a meditative way, saying, I embrace the whole of nature that is infused with the divinity, and I am assembling this. It begins with a thought. All worship begins with a thought, an intention. Now, there is some worship that doesn't begin like that, in which case it is meaningless. But of course, it's better to do some kind of religious activity than nothing. It is much better to do it with some infusion of meaning. So you put some meaning into it, and then you make that your symbol of the divine, using the basic components around you. And for example, in India, okay, coconuts are available, mango leaves are available, pots are available. It requires some craftsmanship. Earth is available, water is available. All of these things are available. So you're really treating this symbol as a living entity, representing the whole of life, which is made from parts, which is made from these subtle components. And these subtle components find their expression in combination as literally earth and air and fire and water and all the rest of it, and space and so on. Yes, this is true. It is the same you see when we do the Aarti in Vespers. And many people don't understand what is the meaning of it. Well, first of all, we light a lamp. A lamp is a symbol of knowledge. It's a symbol of truthfulness, purity, knowledge. It gives us a way out of the darkness. And then we light maybe some agarbatti or some incense, infusing the whole atmosphere with scent. And then the next thing we do is we light 5 lamps all in one, because the traditional way of greeting is to wave a lamp. And 5 lamps, five wicks are there, denoting the sacredness of 5. There are 5 senses, and there are 5 tanmatras. And the reason, it's all in 5s. It's all in 5s. You have 5 fingers on your hand, of course. And if you're not so good at mathematics, then you have 5 on the other hand, and you have 5 toes on the one side and 5 toes on the other side. And that's your living, walking abacus. So there's a decimal system involved. The decimal system was introduced into the Western world as a great breakthrough because 0 was not known before. The Muslim world took the system, the decimalized system from India, and introduced it into the Renaissance period, if you will. So the whole Roman numeral system changed. It was a wonderful transformation. And now all computers run on this binary system and on the decimalization of things. And most people have changed their currency now to the decimal system. So what practical application do we have to make this kind of form? No, we can do anything we like. And ritual is a wonderful way of leading your mood into worship. If we're inundated with daily activities and difficulties and problems, when we come to doing sandhya or worship, we shouldn't allow all those things to crowd in. And so, how do we introduce the mind, or how do we persuade the mind in a different direction away from all the routine problems and so on? Well, we have to artificially almost create a mood. And we do that through ritual. We can do that through music. The quickest mood changer is music. Instantaneously, your mood can change through music. And this is why in classical Indian music, you have a system of ragas. You can't play an evening raga in the morning or a morning raga in the night and so on, because the mood is sensitive. And we have these biorhythms natural to us where the mood of the day is caught. And we can take advantage of that. Quiet periods. These are the periods of sandhya. These are the periods of the sacred periods of night and day, because these are conducive to our meditation because of their quiescence. The merging of night and day in the morning, the merging, or a few hours before that, the announcement of dawn. In the Jewish tradition, the day begins with the nightfall, the previous nightfall. And that is why when they celebrate the Sabbath, it begins in the night, Friday night, and goes through to Saturday, because the night is an indication of the expectation of a bright, optimistic dawn. And so all of these things are useful and helpful to us, because without that, we're caught in what we call Maya. And that is the idea that this adventure, this scene in front of us, and how we deal with it is the reality, but it produces frustration if that is all that there is there. But when we see it in a context of divinity and spirituality, it becomes very different for us. And then our approach to it becomes different from us. And then our mood becomes different from us, to us. And then the way we handle so-called problems and difficulties becomes different. And we now replace the language we used to use. Instead of saying difficulties, we now say, oh, these are adventurous obstacles. So we were talking earlier, say, about skiing in the snow. And you can take it, you can say, oh, somebody forced me into skiing and I'm afraid I'll break my leg. And what happens if I go over a precipice? No, I think I won't do it today. What about tomorrow? No, tomorrow's even worse because the fear will have mounted now. No, just do it and enjoy it and enjoy the freedom of it. Wonderful. So life has a different meaning when you take it in this way. And we're all seemingly struggling, as it were, with our own personal aberrations and difficulties and problems and so on, some more severe than others. Until we realize that probably some of it is brought on by ourselves, some of it is just inevitable, brought on by others, and some of it just happens, That is why we say Shanti 3 times. Shanti, the first one is, please give me peace from the inevitable consequences of my own actions. And then give me peace by the consequences of other people's actions. And then give me peace because of what in insurance companies call act of God. Things just happen. It's a nature of nature itself. But if I have an adventurous attitude and see things in their correct perspective, this requires faith. We were talking earlier on about faith. What is faith? Faith is the conviction that I can let go completely and allow the divine flow of grace to flow through me inevitably. And I do my part in it, but my part is an opening. And it leads me to a question that was asked written to me in text. I can probably deal with that also. But that is the meaning of that particular symbol, okay? So when you see in Hindu ritual, for example, when you see this vessel, normally brass or copper, when you see this, sometimes silver, a precious metal of some kind, representing the product of heat, intense heat being acted on liquid metal. And when you see that it is filled with water and the leaves expressing life and the coconut itself, because that's the whole universe comprising of food and energy is there. You see all the 5 elements are there in that. And the 5 elements essentially are the divine in that form, just as the universe is that divine in all these other forms. Okay, I hope I answered that particular question. I want to deal with the other question that came to me in text, and I have to bring it up here. It goes like this. I recently read Swami Purnananda book, The Way of Peace and Blessedness. Highly impactful short book. There is a line that comes. Now I have to explain. Swami Paramananda was a pioneer monk, a disciple of Swami Brahmananda, who was sent to America, and he had to struggle hard, there's no doubt. But he was an enthusiastic young monk and very profound and very holy man. And he writes thoughts and prayers. I also write thoughts and prayers. His are much more, in my opinion, much more profound and beautiful. Beautiful daily thoughts he gives. And so he has this mystical nature. So the way of peace and blessedness. I want to comment on the title of this. Our aim is peace and our aim is blessedness. We may couch it in different language. But basically, I can't meet anybody who says, let me be disturbed. Please produce a huge disturbance, either in terms of noise on me or in terms of course, there are some people who voluntarily invite that. This is normally called O2 concert or something like that. So Metallica, I don't know. I don't want to be critical of anything, but there are certain sounds which disturb us and certain sounds that make us peaceful. And by and large, world peace is an ideal that everyone wants, but people don't really understand what it means. So everybody is looking for personal peace and universal peace. And blessedness, everybody is looking for a blessed life where things are abundant and where they are blessed with resources. Blessed with resources, be it domestic, or be it financial, or be it in terms of abundance of offspring, whatever it is. So blessedness covers a whole variety of things. Now, The problem is, it's not a problem, but the fact is, we already have peace and we already have blessedness. It's just we didn't recognize it. We didn't see beneath the surface of the skin and see, oh, something is there which is much more profound than what is seen on the surface. By nature, we are built to only see the surface in order to play what we might call the game of life. If you take away the eyes and the ears and all the senses and so on, then the game itself disappears. All the people, all the places, all the events, they all disappear once we take the senses away. We recognize this in a dreamless sleep. In a dreamless sleep, all the senses are taken away, except that cognitive faculty of the mind that registers, there's a peace. So, if you have insomnia and don't get that deep sleep, then you have to take away the consciousness. I heard somebody say, in desperation, about somebody who wouldn't take any remedy for insomnia, even listening to my talks. So they would say, okay, I have the remedy. Here's a 4-pound hammer. I can knock you unconscious. Anyway, the point is, we already have what we are seeking. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened. But the kingdom of heaven is already within you. We are already made in the image and likeness of the Supreme. We just have to sit where God sits and beam from there and realize not only do we have it, but we can beam it to others. That's a realization of our own nature. The highest realization. We may start off with, I don't have it. I don't have peace. My life is not blessed as I would like it. And there's the old story, of course, of the 2 people, shoe salesmen sent, let's say, to South America, one covering the East, one covering the West, and they come back and give different reports. I'm sorry, I have to report. It's impossible to sell shoes in South America. Why? Nobody wears shoes. The other person comes back excitingly. Wonderful news. Great opportunity. Nobody wears shoes. So, same thing, you see, 2 people in a prison. There's a poem like that, I think, or a rhyme like that. One saw prison bars and the other one saw stars beyond it, you see, beyond the bars. Depends on your outlook. So anyway, he says there's a line that comes. Divine Mother will always protect you and give you strength for her work. And then he says, the aspect of doing God's work comes in many books, including Brother Lawrence's book, Practicing the Presence of God, a foundation book. My question is, what encompasses her work? Is it the attitude with which we work at the type or the type of the work? So I intend to answer this question. First of all, the Divine Mother will protect you. Is it true? Will an ordinary mother protect you? Yes. An ordinary mother has a nurturing side, and only the mother's love will protect a child so much, will jump into the mouth of the lion or into the midst of traffic to rescue a child. This is the nature of genetic motherly love everywhere. But the Divine Mother's love is more universal. The Divine Mother's love doesn't judge or criticize. This is the advantage, I suppose, of having this maternal aspect of divinity, because the paternal aspect of divinity doesn't quite make it. All religions say God is love. But a father may scold. There's a threat. Oh, wait till your father gets home. And the father becomes like a punishment stick. So, yes, the mother's love is something different. The mother's love doesn't matter what the child does. The mother's love is always there. It never judges, it never criticizes, it's always nurturing, always accepting, because the child has come directly from the mother. The mother had the child for 9 months already. And no male can experience that. I can talk like this, but I have no idea what I'm talking about. Only the mother knows this gestation period and the glory of this, and the birth of the child, and the painful experience of it, and the rewards afterwards, and the nurturing aspect and the feeding aspect. And the mother's face is the first face that is seen by the child. And the child knows instinctively how to suckle and where to suckle. Straight away, it knows it. In every species, it knows it. Imagine now the Divine Mother, mother of the whole cosmos, mother of the whole of existence, and not just extended to humans, extended to every single aspect of nature that you can see. And so the mother will always protect you. That conviction has to be there. Holy Mother Sharda Devi says, always know you have a mother. It's a very, very satisfying, very comforting aspect. But we have to tune into that, and that requires faith. And what do we mean by that? We mean that we have the opportunity, because we're surrounded by nature. And what is the Holy Mother? The mother of the universe is also the universe itself. There's no separation. There's only one thing. We say Mother Nature, Mother Earth. This is a universal concept. And so this mother is immediately and always protective. But when our attention is directed elsewhere, we don't know it or feel it. And this is what we call a lack of faith. When we know it and we feel protected automatically. And so protects you and give you strength for her work, okay? When we know we are protected, it is an antidote to weakness. It gives us an extra surge. And we can be carried like a kitten. That's the recommended devotional aspect. Instead of scrambling on the back desperately like a monkey on the mother's back, we just surrender. Mother, you carry me. You carry me. But the idea of the mother carrying you is that you can then be independent, because now you have all the resources available and you can exert your particular strength and courage in the knowledge that the mother is protecting me. And the energy that is being supplied is all divine energy. This is why we call this Divine Mother the Shakti. Shakti, an expression of energy. Even the word is symbolic, if you like, or evokes the concept of energy. So Shakti, this Shakti is there. Energy, universal energy. No scientist can tell you what is energy. But we feel it, and we feel its effects. The fact that you are sitting and listening, the fact that you are speaking and talking, the fact that you are thinking is because of this motherly divine energy flowing through you. And the Bhagavad Gita tells us that every time we see an expression of this energy, it doesn't have to be linked with religion or spirituality, but it is spiritual, whether it's good or evil. Let us say, for example, a person who can command a whole group of people by virtue of their capacity to influentially speak or sing or perform. It moves the heart in some way. Beethoven's symphonies, everybody who knows me will know what a great fan I am of the divine genius, in my opinion, of Beethoven. And Romain Rolland says the same thing about Vivekananda. Vivekananda is like the stirring verbal rhythms, I'm paraphrasing, of a Beethoven symphony. So he compares it like that, every word coming out with great, great power. And we all have this Shakti available to us. We just have to tap into it, and we have to use it in a positive, joyful way. Now, the question goes like this. My question is, what encompasses her work? What is her work? The whole universe is her work, localized in you as your individual duty, your individual talents and skills and capacity to do something that nobody else can do. And I'm going to repeat what I'm saying over and over again, that we're all born with some unique talent and ability. This is evidenced in your individuality, your individual architectural structure called DNA. There's no duplicate of it. There's no duplicate of your fingerprints. You can do something with your individual design that nobody else can do. And this is part of dharma. And I was talking yesterday about it, the thing that keeps everything in harmony. What keeps everything in harmony is being tuned into a divine will. The divine has a design, a will that expresses itself as the harmony of the universe, and some of it is constructive and some of it is destructive, and it's all balanced well, because that is the nature of nature itself. There is birth, there is life, and there is death. You can't avoid it, but you should glorify in it, and you should never be frightened of it, because it is how the universe balances, how it works. It works with positives and negatives. It works with electrons and positons. It works with matter and it works with antimatter. It works with male, it works with female. It works with good and it works with bad, with good and evil. Both are necessary in this universe. Don't think that it's all benign and beneficent. No, both are necessary, but both are the mist of a dream that we call Maya, a dream that we will wake up from soon by using Maya itself. It's one aspect of purity and nobility and truth and goodness and harmony, cultivating these qualities that paves the way to neutralize all the harmful waves and give us a clarity where our vision is there, where we see the reality of our own inner peace and blessedness and perfection, where we see that we are made in the image and likeness of God, where we sit on the divine throne and see things as God sees them. So all of us have the capacity to do that. And all work is her work, therefore. So the question is, what encompasses her work? The answer is everything, and more specifically, everything in your localized area. And is it the attitude? Yes, because all work is divine work when you take it in this way. Every activity is not using your energy. There's only one energy there, and that is the Shakti energy of the Divine Mother. That is all that is there. And we happen just to be a gateway. Come, flow through me. That is called work. When we take it personally, we make a mistake. We impose an agency which is not really there. And as long as we do that, we come across these difficulties that any limitations will have. So, with which we work, or the type of the work, and both are there, is the type of work. Now, whatever your activity, the type of work should be conforming to the Bhagavad Gita, and it describes what is yoga. This is the context of karma yoga, because the first few chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are to do with karma yoga, how we can conduct our normal daily working, waking activities and life in such a way that it is harmonizing, that is not giving us any disturbance. So yoga famously is described as equilibrium of mind and skill in action. And if we join these two definitions, we see every work that we do, we employ our skill. In other words, you can say work, whatever activity we do, has to be efficient, using the opportunities that we call time, using the opportunities that we call space. So these are the constructions of Maya. So doing all activities with great efficiency and equilibrium of mind. In other words, these activities don't disturb us. How do we achieve this? We don't worry about the results. The results don't belong to us. We're simply working, in Jesus' language, in the divine vineyard. The vineyard doesn't belong to us. But the appointment and the responsibility of working it and doing our little part within it, yes, that's our little part. And the divine grace does the rest. And thinking in a noble way, in a pure way, enables the forces, these called tanmatras, we can say these are the angels that make the crooked path straight for us, that go ahead before us and make the path smooth for us. The key is in your thinking. We change our thinking, we change our environment. This has to be repeated 1,000 million times until we get it. So several things we have to repeat time and time again in the context of this question. Firstly, we have no energy of our own. It's all divine energy, and whatever we experience is an expression of this energy, and that is the whole cosmos, unending, and we don't know where the end is. We don't know where the physical end is, the dimensional end is. At the moment, we can only go as far as the James Webb telescope is taking us. Yeah, something like 13 billion years away. We can look at that, and we may not know even then where the origin is, because we're just still discovering galaxies which are well formed and they're not supposed to be there. Anyway, that's another issue. But supposing we get into the end of the visible universe, that is, we go as far as the speed of light will take us, then we may find, oh, now it's going on again. And it's going on infinitely, and it never stops. So we have no idea of the infinite extent of just this finite universe. It seems a contradiction in terms. The universe, no doubt, is finite. But the finite is the border that is superimposed by the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. That's all we have. And so in this relative world, we have to acknowledge it is all the infinite divine mother, and we don't know the extent of her dress, her cloth, her skin, her totality. And we are but small gateways, as it were, of this divine energy that flows through us. And we have to acknowledge that when we release and relax and have faith, we are happy to be the open expression, through the ego being an open gateway for the expression of divine grace to flow through. And that's our work. Our work is expression, not gaining. Our work is only expression. And when that is driven home, life becomes a joyous play. It becomes a mansion of mirth, in the language of Ramakrishna. It becomes something like, see, Vivekananda gave a wonderful conceptual understanding. He says that this world is like a circus and we are but clowns rolling. Clowns tumbling. Tumbling was the word he used. Clowns tumbling. We are tumbling clowns. And so life is not as serious as you think it is. It may look like it, but all things will pass. And the seriousness of it is only because of our attitude and how we approach these various obstacles that are there, designed for us to play. Or the world is like a gymnasium, was another expression, and is designed therefore to give us strength. And we can only get strength through tapasya, through self-control. But self-control is not a repression. Self-control is simply a redirection. You take the energy and direct it in a useful way, please. That is self-control. So that is the answer to the question. And I hope I've answered the question from the questioner properly.
I don't so much have a question as an observation. To appreciate the divine, has there got to be the good and bad balance? And what I mean by that is, if everything was divine and beautiful, and this may come from a particular personality type, but if everything was divine and beautiful and illuminatory, I don't even know if that's a word, but what would be wrong with that? Why would if we were all illumined and in a beautiful place and understood our journey and just accepted the divine grace, wouldn't that just be a beautiful place to be? And I suppose to finish that question, so when we come on these talks, particularly with you, I don't feel any ill or pain or stress or worry. I feel illumined. So I understand the logic of the good and bad. I understand the logic of the positive and negative. I understand photons and neutrons. But why can't it be? Why can't it be that beautiful bliss and divine here and now, all of the time?
Well, the answer is it can. It can be.
Oh. Oh, shucks.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Yes. So the question really is, this follow-up question to it is, what's stopping us?
Yeah, better question.
It's stopping us because we are evaluating good and bad. Don't forget, a crocodile doesn't know good and bad. It knows how to bite your leg. That's its nature. And we know that it will bite, so we take precautions and we avoid crocodiles. Simple as that. And is it moral then to turn these crocodiles into handbags? That's the next question, of course, moral dilemma. So you see, this moral dilemma only comes at the human level, where we have a conscience about things. And so we go out of this syndrome of struggle and survival and go into a moral and ethical mode, which is a higher way of understanding things. And we want to take, in the language of the Kathopanishad, we want to take the preferable path rather than the pleasurable path, because somebody who has an element of discrimination will understand, well, the pleasurable part is maybe not so good for me. This is very, very cold here in Dublin. Now I can go into a shopping center and see people selling ice cream. And I think, oh, that's good. And then I wonder why I have tummy ache and while I get fever and cold and so on and so forth, because I put something cold inside. So I didn't use my judgment properly. And had I used my judgment properly, I would have avoided that. And I would have said, oh, let me drink the divine nectar of bliss that is all around me everywhere. Why don't I do that instead of taking that? So it's up to us. So there is a good and bad on equal footing, if you will, and a capacity to choose. And when we choose, we then transcend both good and bad and get into a state of rapture, because it becomes an elevating thing from some other area inside us. Our own nature starts expressing itself. And this becomes an expression of the highest bliss. Now, Taittiriya Upanishad will give us a ranking of bliss. This is more blissful than that, and that is more blissful than this, and so on and so forth. And it will say, it will take all the blissful adventures in life and say, at the end of each one, yes, but somebody who knows the purport of the Vedas intimately, directly, in other words, somebody who has this aspect in devotional language, somebody who lives constantly in the glorious, joyful presence of the Supreme, the bliss transcends all of these others. And so there's no reason why we cannot live in this blissful state. But bliss is different from temporary joy, because joy goes up and down. What we're looking for, I suppose, more is an evenness, a kind of undercurrent of contentment and peace, which underlies everything, accompanied by an indescribable inner sense of joy and fun. And part of that is viewing the world as it should be viewed. That is a mansion of mirth. And if it's a mansion of mirth, we can enjoy it, but we have to use our discernment within it. And we have to say, okay, I used to, in my personality, say, for example, not talking about me personally, I used to enjoy on the basis of more is better. If a little bit of something is good and an infinite amount is much better. A little bit of chocolate cake is wonderful. Therefore, 3-4 cakes in a go is fantastic. All right, yes. But now I no longer find joy in that. I find joy in the quality of the food which I eat, because I insert this divinity within it. I understand the divine is the eater. The divine is the hand that's offering it. The divine is the capacity to digest. The divine is the generosity that gives it to others rather than myself. And there are two ways of taking food. I can either take the main thing and give the crumbs to others, or I can give others the main thing and I eat the crumbs and be satisfied with that, with the knowledge that it is not mine. So these are different ways of thinking, and we have the capacity and the facility, the flexibility to shift our position in many different ways with a great sense of joy and fun. We look at it this way, look at it that way. And philosophy gives us these three tools. We can classify them as dualism and qualified non-dualism and absolute non-dualism, Dvaita, Vishishta Dvaita, Advaita. And Advaita is a multi-purpose tool. We don't have to use it all the time, but it would be the ultimate problem solver for us. That is to see the totality in everything that stimulates us to feel it and serve it and so on. This is the practical dimension of Vedanta. Practical dimension of non-dualistic philosophy is the seeing and serving God in others, if you want to put it as simply as this. Okay. So yes, please experience it and do it now. A cave has been dark for 1,000 years. How long does it take to light? As an instant. You light a match and it's finished. Well, we can probably finish off with that. So thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you, Swami.
Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace beyond.